Good afternoon, everyone. Sarah Barker with the Connect Our Elders Empowering Aging podcast. I'm so happy to be back with you guys today. I know we kind of had a lull in the action with these podcasts, but we are getting the tempo back up. Today, I'm so excited to have with me Michael Brouse. He's a retirement mortgage specialist, and we are going to be talking about what is his why is he doing this work that he does. And then we'll be talking about, what is the number one fear seniors face today? How is it that a reverse mortgage can help the homeowner find money? We'll also be talking about what is the missing piece in the retirement puzzle, which I'm super excited to learn about because I have no idea what it is. And then also something crucial. Why is it important to get it right from the start? So again, thank you for being here today. And Michael, without further ado, please share with the audience what your background is and why you're choosing to do this work.
Yeah, well, Sarah, thank you for having me on today. And, the coming into the mortgage industry in April of '99, not knowing a lot about, real estate financing, I quickly found out that, even though I owned a home at the time, really how home ownership is the cornerstone to building wealth in America. And a lot of times folks are trying to figure out ways to purchase a home. And so, I've been doing that for a minute, right? Helping people integrate their mortgage into their overall long and short-term financial plan. I had a mentor early on who, Barry Habib, some folks know of him. And he said, Mike, you're like a box of Cheerios. People can get you anywhere. And I said, well, thanks, Barry. What do you suggest? He goes, well, I can tell you what I've done in relation to my mortgage origination career. And that is, I know about the financial markets. I understand how life insurance can benefit families. I understand just a lot of the things that go into it. And so that's, I took that to heart and, got my life insurance license and studied for the, Series 6 and 63. Didn't get the license, but, was really familiar with, with how that works. And so that's really what I began to do. And then I started doing live seminars before, social media and some of these platforms we have now, which are so cool. But, did that. So when I transitioned into helping seniors, it was kind of a natural transition because I had always looked at the mortgage and say, okay, do you want to have a mortgage when you retire? Or do you want to have this thing paid off? And what's the quickest path to get you there? And oh, by the way, on the journey, what are the what ifs? What are the what ifs? Like if you can't pay your mortgage, or, what are the what ifs if you want to get a second home? So there was a lot of things that we kind of, that we worked in there. But really for the last 4 years, I've really focused on helping seniors figure out this kind of time in their life. Some people call it the golden years, or they use things like putting the golden back in the golden years. But, I get a lot of satisfaction, right, with helping, folks figure this part of their life out. As much as I enjoy getting a, millennial first-time home buyer in their first home, this part of the business, really I get excited about. And another thing is too is, some people say, Sarah, well, what is your why?
Yes.
We were talking about our why before Simon Sinek wrote the book. Right. It's like, what motivates you to do what you do? And really, I'll share something personal with you. And I know this is on air, but, really, I found that the, modern society, the building blocks of modern society are the family. And the number one reason people decide not to stay together anymore is over financial issues. So I felt that was super important, that if I could play a part in that and keeping families together, And a lot of people don't know that gray divorce and seniors having marital problems later in life, it's kind of I want to say it's the fastest growing segment of, divorce attorneys work, but it's up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second reason, or the second why, is, we are aware, and I know you have military background, and the Coast Guard put up with me for about 8 years. And what I noticed is, in the services, specifically talking about, our men and women in uniform, suicide's a big deal. The Coast Guard at one time had more suicide and suicide attempts than any of the services, which is not something I'm
Wow.
super proud to announce. But and then like in a really quick way, say why is that? Well, every time, notice this, every time you see the command officer at a base or on a Coast Guard vessel, you say, that kid's in charge. So these folks are graduating from the Coast Guard Academy, or they're graduating from officer candidate school, or they're coming up through the enlisted ranks. Mm-hmm. They get a lot of responsibility at a young age. Mm-hmm. And without a good foundation or a good support system, sometimes it gets overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I went into the weeds there a little bit about the suicide play, but really back to my why, keeping folks married and helping them figure out their financial situation. And then the number one reason for suicide is folks have no hope around their finances.
Yeah, they get overwhelmed, like there is no way out of it.
There's no way out of it. They feel hopeless and helpless. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when you bring up a solution that can breathe new life into their whole scene, and it's especially critical when folks are older, right? Because we become, I do, not you, I say I do, I become a little jaded, as they get older, and it's like, man, I've heard that before, I've tried that before, and it's just not working. But really, when you have hope around finances, I think it can propel you forward and saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not done. Let's dust off that bucket list and see what else we can do. Let's see how much we can help people. And all these things require do, re, mi, right? You got to have a little money to do that. And American senior homeowners are sitting on, whatever the number is today, $11 trillion of home equity. So, that's kind of the story there on my background. I know it was a little long and drawn out, but really I'm trying to help.
Yeah, I think that approach, because I know when we had our meeting, that was interesting, which was that usually when we're talking about reverse mortgages, we're talking, in my experience anyway, it's like, okay, they're far older, and we're talking about using the reverse mortgage to be able to cover the cost of care. And so I found that interesting with you, where yes, that is something that you can certainly help with, and that can be a reason for the reverse mortgage. But you were also saying, yeah, but even the younger people who maybe it's about, they have so much financial stress in their later years and it's affecting their marriage, that using the reverse mortgage could actually be a solution, right? In their older years, to maintain that marriage, to make sure that they don't become suicidal and hopeless and all of those things. And then I think the other area is these people that have worked really, really hard all their years, good, hardworking folk, but not necessarily independently wealthy, but do want to take some bucket list type vacations. And so how can they afford to do those things? And so possibly a reverse mortgage, right?
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you brought that up. And it reminds me of, so 11,000 people are turning 65 every day, not 11,001 or 10,099, right? It's around 10,000 people are turning 65 every day. And that's going to go on for a minute, right? Because of the baby boomers. And we know that the great generation and this generation, the mortgage was a bad thing. And there's a reason for that without, getting all into it. But most of the time we learn our philosophy, if you will, around money from our parents or
Mhm.
somebody who is that we know that's done well. Well, the deal is during the Great Depression, half of all the homes were foreclosed on.
Mm.
And even back then, those mortgages, they weren't, like a 30-year fixed. They were all done by the federal government, and they typically were 5 years in length, but the home wasn't paid off after 5 years. There was a
Mhm.
balloon payment at the end. So a lot of the early mortgages, and think of the root word mortgage, it's like
Mm.
mortician or mortality. This thing is designed, to go for a while, right? The modern
I
mortgage.
never thought of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of how it came about. And it's really fascinating if you go back and to look at the, some of the things that FDR did to, pull us out of the Great Depression. But the reason I mention that is because a lot of, my grandparent or my parents, grandparents, the mortgage was a necessary evil, but let's pay it off so the government can't take our home.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
we all know now if you're making your mortgage payments, you're paying your property taxes and homeowners insurance. That loan is not going to become due. Now there's like one instance, eminent domain where there's a freeway coming through your town.
Mhm. Mhm.
They can do what they want, but they got to offer you money for it. So it's not like the government says, "Oh, we're out of money. We got to come. You got to pay your home off, or you got to move."
Right.
Right. So what that meant though is that mindset and that fear of the government coming and taking their home is they paid off their home to the detriment of saving for retirement. So
Mm.
what you have now, we've all heard the saying, house rich, cash poor.
Yeah.
But then you have this issue where the senior homeowners, like, look, I busted my hump to pay this thing off. I haven't heard good things about reverse mortgages. I don't like mortgages in the first place. I don't even like the word mortgage. So I'm not open to that idea.
Well, because the myths have not been talked through with them, right? There's a lot of myths around reverse mortgages, and the thing is, I guess there were some bad things that happened many years ago, right? But they've increased the regulations around it, and so really, society just needs a re-education on what the reverse mortgage is and what it is not.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. When you talk, like if your hand was a ladder, the fingertip being the top rung, high trust, the low bottom of the rung being low trust.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I get in trouble with this, but when it comes to consumers trusting professionals, who holds up the bottom rung? Uh, yeah, it's used car salesmen,
Uh-huh.
it's mortgage professionals or unprofessionals, and then it's attorneys.
Really?
So yeah, and they obviously I work with a lot of attorneys, and they don't like to hear that. It's like, nah, 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 I'm not listening. But it doesn't. The difference between mortgage folks and legal professionals is there's a bigger bar to entry
Right.
into the
Yeah, that one
legal.
surprises me that they're so low on the ladder. That really surprises me.
Yeah, but the deal is you're going to have dirt bags regardless of what the point of entry is.
Yeah.
There's teachers that betray trust. There's coaches that betray trust. There's doctors that betray trust, and there's lawyers who are, they're after different motivations than actually the best interest of the client.
Right. There's
So,
bad apples everywhere.
yeah, there's bad apples
In any industry,
in
definitely.
any industry, right? Yeah.
But
So
that's
so
why, right, I want to encourage the audience when it comes to picking a professional, regardless if it's an attorney, a wealth manager, a care manager, a reverse mortgage specialist, do your due diligence, right? Don't just go online and look. I really encourage you to ask somebody for a personal recommendation. So that way you're working with somebody that is trusted and vetted.
Yeah. And, the proper term of a referral is, telling somebody that you care about somebody that you know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So referrals, I feel, are the highest, form of introduction. So like you would never probably go to the yellow pages. Well, they don't have yellow pages anymore. But if you wanted to get your hair done, you probably wouldn't just start Googling, or if you did, you would look at every Yelp review. And then you probably still would call somebody, right? That's for your hair. This is for your mom and dad, or this is for, finding a place where you're going to spend, the rest of your life if you choose to go into a care, either a tenants in common apartment where it's, living for seniors specifically, or it's, retirement home. But let me close the loop on the latter thing, because it's still like rattling around in my brain. When you talk about the myth perceptions, like you were with reverse mortgages, so the ladder is high trust, bottom rung is low trust. Since mortgage folks hold up that bottom rung, when you throw the reverse mix into there, you're not even on the ladder anymore. You know what I'm saying? So not only are you competing against myth perceptions about the mortgage product, to your point, it was sold incorrectly early on. It didn't have a lot of protection in place. It didn't have a lot of oversight. But just the fact that you're talking about a mortgage, so there is definitely some obstacles of trust with the product itself. But through the years, it's getting better, and doing things like this to kind of say, hey, look, this is not a scary product. And there's a lot of people that have needs right now because as we've talked about, they're house rich and cash poor, but it's not their fault. They were doing what they thought they were supposed to do, paying the home off, saving for retirement, and now it's come to the place where, due to inflation or or whatever else. But yeah, that's one of the things we were gonna share today is why aren't more people taking advantage of reverse mortgages?
And we will definitely get into that. And I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. We can't assume that it is the right solution for someone, but what I'm always urging people to do is to consider all of your resources, consider all your options, get educated, right? And then make an informed decision on whether or not the reverse mortgage is the right fix for your situation, right? So let's talk about, what is the number one fear that is facing seniors today?
Yeah, running out of money. Running out of money. And for just seniors in general, running out of money, but also senior homeowners is running out of money, but then being displaced. So that if we know that's their number one kind of thing that keeps them up at night, or ways that they're constantly looking to cut back. Sarah, it's kind of sad, but Stanford did this study, and it was like a 3-part study, and it wasn't just for reverse or in-home care or professionals like yourself that offer good counsel to folks and train them how to talk to in-home caregivers or these other things. The folks that paid off their mortgage with a reverse mortgage, suddenly their pharmaceutical expenses like 10x'd. So what does that mean? That means that because these seniors had a mortgage payment, that they were not taking their meds.
Yeah.
And that's a study. I can find the link for that. But when I read that study, I'm all, man, that is that. And here's another thing. So, mom doesn't turn the heat on in the wintertime, doesn't turn the AC on in the wintertime, or AC on in the summertime, heater on. Is that what I said?
Yeah, the heat on.
Yeah, grandma's not turning the air conditioner on in the she's trying to keep from freezing to death. But literally they won't do it because they're anticipating that energy bill coming in the mail. So they'll go without. Now, the other thing is they won't put gas in the car. It's another expense, but they need to go to the pharmacy to pick up, whatever they're doing. And not everybody's like, medicationed out. But, as you get older, you need some help.
Mike, I haven't thought about some experiences I've had for a long time, but when I was out in the field and I was actually doing these living room assessments to bring individuals onto caregiving services, that study, please send it to me, and I will put the link in the posting of this recording. But I have met with people before, husband-wife couples, where, you always talk about what's your diet like, where husband was skipping a meal during the day so that wife could have 3 meals, or he wasn't taking his medication so that way they could afford all of the medications that she needed. These are real life situations that I've seen and been, privy to. So I had forgotten about these memories, right? Until you just mentioned this study. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really
is. And so
is.
circling it back to the reverse mortgage, Mike, I've never even thought about how utilizing a reverse mortgage could be a solution for those types of needs. That never crossed my mind until right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're retired and the bank's closed, right, there's not an opportunity to increase the money that you have coming in. Then you have to work with what you have. And, our seniors and the great generation, they're super resilient, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of complaining among that group, and very reluctant to ask for help, even to their kids.
It's so true. Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it's, you and I, we wake up in the morning and think about the needs of seniors, right? And that's why that's why I chose personally not to do forward mortgages, but to do reverse. And you have your reasons for, wanting to serve this community as well, our elders. And I mean, just think about it. Hearing aids are, I think they should be free, first of all. And those ridiculous batteries. Here you have an elder who's, some of them are, their dexterity is pretty solid. But have you ever seen the hearing aid in the battery hearing aid?
No, I don't think I have.
It's like the size of a grain of rice.
Oh,
And they're
wow.
supposed to, and so I believe it's designed to keep people coming back in because they can't replace their own batteries. Or, years ago, there was a famous scene in a movie where a kid was at like a school event outside, and it was out of like a field trip. So that's the word I'm looking for, a field trip. And he, eats his food and throws everything away. And he gets home and he realizes he didn't have his retainer. And his mom just like blows a gasket because this is like the 3rd time he's lost his retainer. So they ended up going back to the park where they had the field trip and digging through the garbage. So it's stuck in my mind that, that would be a traumatic event. So that's a kid losing his retainer. Think about an elderly person who loses their hearing aid. Suddenly their world becomes like, if I press mute right now.
Yeah. And then if they do lose it for whatever reason, like, what is the cost to go replace it? And do they have that disposable income, the ability?
See what I'm doing with this?
Yeah. For a minute, I thought, oh, did I go on mute?
No, that's what it's like. And their phone rings, and it's like they pick up and they can't hear on the other. So I know I'm being super, maybe dramatizing this a little bit more than it needs.
But you're not. That's what I want the audience to know. What we are sharing and what we are talking about are very real issues on a large magnitude. It's so unfortunate and so sad. And there's a lot of us in this industry that want to help, and the need is so great, right? And I guess what I want the audience to know, the experiences we're sharing are not exaggerations.
Yeah, no, they're not. And the thing is whether you have money or you don't have money, your hearing may go, your eyesight may go, you may get arthritis. It doesn't matter. Like health, yes, we may have the wherewithal to take care of ourselves a little better than somebody who, is not, whatever socioeconomic, level
Mhm.
they're at. But really, we're all facing the same deal. We're all gonna, last time I checked, 100% of us are going to die.
Taxes
And
and death guaranteed for all of us.
right, right. Yeah, and so it's just a matter, okay, how do we mitigate the challenges, financial challenges along the way? And what's wrong with incorporating home equity into the whole equation to solve some of these problems? It's not like,
Mhm.
I like the idea of somebody doing something on their bucket list. Why not? Like, if your kids have a problem with you having fun, um, well, man, maybe you should like say, we need to do what we need to do. And, try maybe worry about some of this other stuff a little bit later. I get it. The parents want to leave a legacy, but
Mhm.
maybe you could, wasn't there some statistic about people, folks wanting to stay in their home once they're a homeowner?
Oh, it's over 70% of seniors want to age in place, right? So not leave their home. Mhm.
Not leave their home, but the parents think that the kids want the home, but they don't want the home.
Oh, it's an assumption. Yes, and
Yeah.
that's why people like you and I, anybody else, that has a space in this industry, really try to be a facilitator of a conversation, right? Because mom or dad are assuming that their legacy is going to be leaving the home and that the kids want the home, right? And but it turns out they don't really care. They would actually be like, Mom, please do this if you need to take care of your care. If you want to go to Italy, you've always wanted to go to Italy, right? So these assumptions, and we
Mhm.
as people in the senior care industry, we have to be good at suggesting to them, we need everybody to come to the table and actually have a full-on discussion about what are the desires of the elder, right? What do they want? And
Mhm.
then what are the solutions that exist that could be possible, the right possible solutions, and then facilitate this agreement, really.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's so much assumption that happens.
A lot of assumption. And the kids don't want the house, they want the money. And what they want even more is memories.
Mhm.
So, one thing that's becoming more and more common right now is for mom and dad to use the equity in the home through a reverse mortgage, not to pay for, necessarily medication or gas in the car, or to keep the house, hot in the winter and cool in the summer, but say,
Mhm.
look, we're doing a family vacation once a year, and we're going to rent a Airbnb, that's going to sleep about 10. We're going to pay for you guys to come together, and we're going to spend a week together.
I
Now,
love
how much
that.
better is yeah, how much better is that than, your mom and dad have passed. I'm the trust and wills attorney. This is what you have coming to you. Wouldn't you much rather have the
And the
memory?
connection that the elder feels like when they are reaching the final days, right? So I do believe that the somebody's passing experience, right? Them passing away, how they experience those final moments has so much to do with if any conflict has been resolved, any traumas have been resolved, but also how connected do you feel to those people in your life? Because that's
Yeah.
going to make you feel like you're not alone. So, right, using the reverse mortgage to intentionally hold all of these events where the family comes together. And to your point, Mike, right? Like create these memories for
Yeah.
a lifetime for the kids, right? They'll go on, but then mom and her dad has cultivated these memories, right? So I just feel like a lot of it is, right, they can peacefully pass knowing that they've lived life to the fullest. They've sucked every ounce out of, interactions with their family members, the grandkids.
Yeah.
Love that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that is a living legacy kind of play. Like, why wait? Let's do something now, but not for us, but for, the generations that are coming after us. Did I share with you the story of Bonnie?
No,
Um,
we haven't. Well, you have, but let's share it with the audience.
Okay. So along the lines of, kind of what I've noticed in helping hundreds of folks with, reverse mortgages, literally. This is what I found. So Bonnie was referred to me. Bonnie, owned a home. She was a widow. Her husband had died like 3 years, about 4 or 5 years now, before, and 2/3 of their income went away. So she was now, living in the home. She was making ends meet. She got a part-time job, so she could have just a little extra, maybe to go to lunch once a week and, kind of not be stuck at home all the time and be able to take a road trip if she wanted to.
Yeah.
So it got to the point though where she, she felt like she had to sell the home and make other plans. And so she contacted a realtor. The realtor, came over and said, "Hey, I think this is what we can get for your home." And the realtor told me that, like, right where we were in the front yard, she started crying, and said, "I cannot sell this home. I've raised my kids here. All these, memories in the house, and, the echoes of laughter and birthday parties and, summertime, fun out on the lawn." She says, "I can't do it, but I don't know what to do." And Donna goes, "Well, I know this guy named Mike. He does reverse mortgages. Why don't you just talk to him? It's not going to hurt anything." And so she called me and introduced herself. And I said, "Look, Bonnie, I'm gonna come over to your house and we'll sit down at the kitchen table, have a little conversation, because I want to share with you. I want to find out, what your goals are and what you're looking to do and kind of what brought you to this point." So, make a long story short, I go over there, and as I drive up to the house, I noticed there's some chip paint along the top of the house, and there's some weeds in the driveway, but it didn't look bad, but you could tell that it hadn't really had some TLC in a minute. So she opens the door. "Mike, come on in." We walk through the hallway, all the pictures, family pictures of her, now deceased husband. And she takes me through the kitchen, then into the living room. And we sit down on the couch and we just begin to talk. But, I'm noticing things about the house. And I noticed over in the left corner of the house, almost the whole wall, or the bottom half of the floor of the carpet, was taken up by this wooden device. And I guess it's a people that do weaving, or people that, like I think I don't know if it's a weaver's beam. I always forget the name of the nomenclature, if you will. But I noticed it, and that's the first thing I said. I go, "Bonnie, what is that?" She goes, "Well, I make blankets and I make throws." And funny enough, she said, "I give them to the senior center." I go, "Oh, that's interesting. You're a senior and you're given to the senior center." But that's what she wanted to do. And, of course, she had made the blankets for her grandkids and her kids. And, that was her deal. She loved doing that. And she says, "Well, wait till you see the rooms." She had fabric in there and yarn and, like a couple more sewing machines, and just her house was set up for her hobby, and she loved it. And I said, "Well, look, Bonnie, what have you heard about reverse mortgages?" She said, "Mike, I heard they're bad. The bank gets the home, all the leftover equity goes to the bank. And, like, if you get to owing too much, they're going to kick you out of the house." And I go, "Bonnie, none of that's true." And so I told her about, the way it works a little bit. And then I said, "Bonnie, what is important about having extra money to you?" And she stops and she goes, "Well, Mike, and I think you've seen around the house, and I'm a little embarrassed. There's, my husband used to take care of, all the things around the house. And, there's just some deferred maintenance going on." She didn't use the word deferred, but that's what it was. It was just, she lived in the home a long time, and, things need to be freshened up. She goes, "I want to take care of that because, I have pride in my home, and, we've always been that way. We take care of our stuff." I said, "Okay, all right, what else?" She goes, "Well, I have a son and a daughter, and I have 3 grandkids. My son is career military. He lives in Virginia, and I really want to spend more time with the grandkids. And unfortunately, he's not able to put them all on a plane and, fly them out here. He doesn't have the time or the money really to do that, and I can't afford to go see him. And it's killing me that that I can't spend more time with them, because they're growing up and it goes so fast. And I'm getting older, and I just kind of want to spend some time with them and create some more memories. And I said, okay, well, what else? And she goes, well, when my husband died, I got a part-time job throwing a newspaper. And right there, I thought to myself, you're like in your mid 70s and you're throwing a newspaper. But she wanted to do that. And she said, the company that I throw newspapers for, so what I would do, just so you know, Mike, I drive down to the building where the Press Democrat, where they print the papers. And then I would use a room in there and fold the papers, put them in the bag, and then deliver them. So I'm all done by the time the sun comes up. And they just told me that this winter I would not have the access to that room. And right there I go, my heart melted within me, because that room was a heated room during the wintertime, and I could fold the papers comfortably there. And so not having access to that room now, I was going to have to, take these back to the house, and I don't have any room to do that. And my garage is freezing in the winter, and it's got stuff in there. We've been here for 40 years. There's a lot of stuff in there. And so she goes, that's where I began to think, I can't do this anymore. My body's wearing out. I'm not going to have this heated room. So that's when I was going to sell the home. I go, so let me understand. So you want to do some deferred maintenance on the home, take care of that. You want to go visit your kids and your grandkids. She goes, yeah, I really want to do that. And I said, okay. So we actually did the reverse mortgage for her. And she bought a round trip ticket to go visit her son and then visit her daughter. And it was going to be about 30 days. So she was going to take her Texas time, doing this and really visit. And so she did. And she was sending me pictures on her iPhone and sharing the memories with me. And it felt really good, right? It felt really good to help. And a lot of these stories play out with helping seniors and the impact we're making on their life, but especially with Bonnie, because there was this connection. She knew what was important about, in her life and her legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's where it kind of gets a little interesting. And so 6 months go by, and her daughter calls me and goes, hey, Mike, you helped my mom with a reverse mortgage. And I go, oh yeah, because I remember her. She's very adamant against doing the reverse mortgage. But she was like the point person. And I go, oh yeah. Yeah, your mom had that great trip. And she was sharing pictures, and she goes, yeah. And I'm all, I knew something. She goes, I just need to know now what to do with the reverse mortgage. And I'm all, what do you mean? She goes, well, my mom went on the trip, and then when she got back, she had this kind of persistent cough. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I'm sorry, Bonnie, but you have 2 large masses on your chest, and we can't operate. And you probably got about a couple months at the most to live. And her daughter goes, well, I just want to let you know my mom passed away last week.
Oh my God, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, and I was just like super sad, right? I mean, I just like this, really pregnant pause, because I could tell she was, those words coming out of her mouth. It was, like when you lose somebody and you talk about it, it hits home and it hits home and it hits home. And finally you get to the point to where, you can talk about it without breaking down. But she goes, Mike, I just want to tell you that I'm so glad that my mom did the reverse mortgage, because I knew what was important to her too. And she got to visit with my brother and my nephews and nieces. It was such a wonderful time. But also, my brother and I now have a house that's ready to sell, because she kind of buttoned up all the areas that were a problem. So yeah, it's
that is so moving, because if she had not moved forward and done it, and then this health issue that led to her passing away,
yeah,
she wouldn't have had that 30 days time with her family.
yeah. And it's So with things like that, that's a difference maker to me. And she
Mm-hmm.
just needed permission, when
To
she
do
got
it.
clear, yeah, to do it, and when she got clear on what she wanted. So, those are the kind of, so we're talking about, what's important,
Mm-hmm.
what might motivate somebody to do, to go ahead and explore a reverse mortgage. Because I'll be honest, I'm product agnostic when it comes to, whether somebody's going to move forward or not. That's why I always ask them, what's important about having a little bit more money to you? Because
Mm-hmm.
forget about the reverse mortgage, right? That's just a tool to get there. And once
Yeah.
you know about all their assets and a little bit about, what their, uh, what their expenditures are, then you really can begin to see, look, like, can I help you with
Well,
possibly a
now you
reverse
can
mortgage?
properly plan it. It's like it's life planning. That's what keeps coming to mind. Your life planning. Um, so you had mentioned, I think you just said agnostic, but I have on
Yeah.
here, right, too, because I've never heard a reverse mortgage specialist use this term before. So we've talked about how, a reverse mortgage can help the senior identify money, find money in their home. But I'm curious, what do you mean by your product agnostic? And that's one of your key differentiators.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. Barry, we're going back to Barry, was a big influence on me. He was a mentor. And I think he's the one that he said, um, he would say that recommendation without examination is malpractice. In other words, you go to the doctor's office,
Mm-hmm.
you don't march right in to see the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
No, you have somebody that there's an intake process. They're going to ask you questions. What brings you in today? They're going to weigh you. They're going to take your temperature. They're going to ask, have you lost a lot of weight in the last few days? Not on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like recommendation without examination is called malpractice. So when I say I'm product agnostic, I can't begin a conversation thinking I'm going to sell this person a reverse mortgage. Like, I got to ask a handful of powerful questions so I can find out if I have a solution for them. Now, if I do, great. If not, maybe it'll be, maybe they need to go see their financial planner, to increase, withdrawals from their investments, or maybe they need to go see a forward loan officer, or maybe they need to go see a realtor, to sell the home. Maybe they need to right size. Maybe this home truly doesn't fit their needs. That, like, they haven't seen the second floor of their home in 2 years because they can't get up the stairs and they don't want to, install one of those. You've seen the electric chairs. Electric chairs. That's what they're
Yeah.
called. I'm not a fan. I wouldn't sit in one because I can imagine myself, the bolt coming loose from the wall, and then it's worse than falling down the stairs. I'm being dumped from, like, 2 feet high onto the stairs, and then I'm tumbling down the stairs. But I know people use them all the time, and I know contractors, do a good job installing them. But that's what I mean by product agnostic. Going into the conversation, I'm not, like, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. I try to remove myself from that, that category of being a hammer. Like, you come to see me, baby, you're going to get a reverse mortgage. It's like, please, it's like throw up in my mouth. That's not
Right.
good.
No, you're actually taking such a consultative approach that you're, identifying what is it exactly that's so important to them.
Yeah.
So even if it ends up being something that you don't provide, right, you're at least taking that approach where you can identify maybe there's a different resource that they need. So you're really there just to help the person. Yes, it's great. It's great if they decide they want a reverse mortgage and you can accomplish that for them, but you're really there. Your heart's in it to help them get whatever they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like I need to be a resource,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's this way with everybody, but I enjoy it when people actually ask me questions,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've tried to get myself to the place where, I'm not just learning about interest rates or how the market works. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
like, genuinely, taking a 360-degree view of the individual's overall scene. and what they want. And then, of course, the children, we were talking a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I would say that probably 90% of the kids have the best interest of their parents at heart. But that 10%.
Well, and I think that really it's just because they need some more education around it, right? To understand what's going on here. So you had mentioned something about the missing piece in the retirement puzzle. Oh. What is this missing piece?
Yeah, so the missing piece. So I want to compliment most financial planners in that they are, when they do their intake form, they are finding out, or when they do their annual checkup, right? Annual mortgage review or annual financial review, whatever that particular flavor that they're calling it. Probably not an annual mortgage review for a financial planner, but mortgage folks should be doing an annual mortgage review. I should be doing an annual mortgage review more consistently. Let's put it that way. Not saying I'm like, oh yes, 100% of the time I'm checking in with my clients twice a year to make sure they're in the right mortgage. I aspire to that because that's major value, right? But what I mean by, okay, here's what some financial planners don't do. Because the mortgage is like one of those sacred cows, they don't consider it into the overall long and short-term financial plan of the borrower, which is ludicrous to me, because most Americans gain wealth in two areas: their 401k and the equity in their home. So you mean to tell me you're a financial professional, but you don't know how much they owe on their home, what it's worth, what their interest rate is, what they're paying in property taxes and homeowners insurance, and do they want a mortgage when they retire? Like, you don't ask those questions? And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying that's like you going into a doctor's office and they just give you 2 aspirin and say, call me in the morning. It's like, what am I doing here? I got a problem. You're the doctor.
You tell me.
Aren't you gonna ask me some questions? Aren't you going to ask me about this, third arm that's growing out of my side here? Is that not bothering you? So that's what I mean by 100% of the time. And here's the practical application, Sarah.
Okay.
Most financial planners, and I spent about 15 months as a life insurance professional. So I actually did it hands-on. And had some great training to do that. And a lot of the stuff that I brought to the company, I'd already kind of accumulated over time. Again, because I want to know, how this whole thing, comes together. But most financial planners, they use a software to forecast if a client is going to be able to meet their retirement goals, right? So they'll take all of their assets, they'll take all their debts, and they'll plug them into this program. And most of the time, and I'm really dumbing this down because I'm not saying that I'm an expert in it, but I know enough about it. I've worked with the software. Basically, you'll get one of 3 lights. You'll get a green light saying, hey, your retirement plan is going to work, and you can go to age 120 and you should be fine. So that's a green light, golden, right? The amber light is, man, I don't know if you're going to make it. You may need to work until you're 110, given these conditions in the market and the forecast and basically things in your life. The third one is the red light, meaning you can't retire. You've got to make some major changes right now for you to even be able to survive down the road. So here's the deal. The financial planners that aren't including home equity into the equation, whether it's a lump sum distribution from the home as the equity, or it's an income in the form of reverse mortgage 10-year payment. In other words, every month the lender is going to deposit an amount of money in the borrower's bank account to help come alongside the other income that they may have, to make sure things work. Well, the folks that hit the amber light and hit the red light that aren't using home equity modeling to determine whether they can retire or not, what are they doing? That's like if you inserted the home equity the home equity into software forecasting, a
Mm,
lot of those reds would be turned to amber, and the amber would turn to green. So
that makes
that's a huge
sense.
solution. But here's something that's really that I think needs to be changed. And you don't look at Mike Brouse and go, Mike, you look like an activist. I'm not an activist, but I feel like an activist sometimes when I hear about these large companies. I'm not going to name names, but they tell their financial planners, they're tenured financial planners, if you talk about a reverse mortgage, you will go work somewhere else. That's a shame.
It is a shame because what you're not saying it's the right solution for everybody, but it is a solution that people should be aware of and have the right to inquire about and explore to take care of their clients. Yeah. So whatever that company is that you're referring to, it sounds like they're only
Companies.
assets under management.
Yeah. Yeah, companies and other ones like I'll use Edward Jones. They're actually teaching, from what I understand, because I know somebody that just came back from or just got done with their 6-month training to become an Edward Jones agency owner.
Mm-hmm.
They actually took some time to explain reverse mortgages, so that's encouraging.
It is.
That's refreshing. And then you have folks, CFPs, the financial planner group in San Francisco, which I think is about 500 strong. They
Wow.
actually are endorsing reverse mortgages.
It's a
And
tool. That's the thing. So I have a good friend that does the type of work that you do, right, in San Diego.
yeah,
And he's really developed tight relationships with financial planners, but they just needed to receive some education on it. And so now they're utilizing it as a tool when they're helping their clients,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And here's the thing. Um, I'm helping financial planners retain more of their clients or assets under management
Mm-hmm.
by helping them understand that it's okay to talk about a reverse mortgage if it's okay to talk about a reverse mortgage,
If it
right? You're
makes
not going to go and
sense,
you're
right?
not going to sell somebody a permanent life insurance contract when they're 80 years old for the most part, because the beautiful thing about a permanent life insurance contract is that it grows in value over time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have really no need for a death benefit when you're retired as far as income replacement goes. So
Mm-hmm.
I may be treading in territory that I'm not qualified to tread in. But all I'm saying is, um, if I go to the doctor and that doctor is an intern and they're specializing in brain surgery, um, how many brain surgeries have you done? You'll be my first. Well, that just gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling. They've had the training for it, but they don't have any experience in it.
Practical experience, yeah.
Practical experience. That's why I say a financial planner who is not incorporating, even incorporating this into their annual review, like I said, or their intake form. I really feel like they're doing their customers a disservice. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've had financial planners say, well, none of my clients need this. And I go, oh, okay. Well, it's not just a mortgage of last resort. It can really be used as a significant tool in longevity planning. And there's, PhDs that have written about this, and I can provide that information to you. There's, some real thought leaders through the years who have written books and said, look, this is a strategy to help your clients stay flush through their retirement years.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't choose to embrace it or educate yourself about it, how good are you really at what you do? So I hope I'm provoking some listeners that may have poo-pooed the idea of looking at a reverse mortgage as a possible solution when it's needed.
Yes, I do encourage that. You're not pushing it on anyone. You're saying get educated about it. That's
Just
all.
get educated about
Right?
it.
Whether you are actually a senior who has always thought that it's a bad thing, maybe you just need some more education and then you can make an informed decision. But also these financial planners that you're talking about, right? maybe there just needs to be more of an understanding about it. So Mike, I do think that I'm going to have you back on because we are running out of time and I have a meeting. And so I'm going to have you back on as a guest to talk about the importance of getting it right from the get-go. And then we'll also be talking about the cost of care differential.
Yeah, great. I look forward to it, Sarah.
Yes. Thank you so much for being my guest today on the Empowering Aging podcast.
It's my pleasure. You're wonderful.
Thank you.